"You need to understand something," the officer said during the review, staring at the footage on the screen. "The person you thought you were questioning was never the person you assumed she was." The room became silent as everyone watched the same moment again. A quiet gas station. A normal afternoon. A woman standing beside her vehicle. Nothing about the scene looked unusual, yet the few minutes that followed would challenge the way people judge others before knowing their story. Before the cameras captured every detail, before the questions were reviewed, before anyone knew her history, Commander Maya Thompson was simply seen as another customer at a gas station in Oak Ridge, Florida. She was wearing casual clothes, carrying herself with confidence, and preparing to continue her journey after filling her tank. She did not display medals. She did not mention her past. She did not expect special treatment. To anyone watching from a distance, she appeared to be exactly what she was in that moment. A person going about her day. But Maya carried a story that most people would never guess. For more than 15 years, she had served her country as a Navy SEAL, becoming part of a community known for discipline, preparation, and mental strength. Yet, after leaving the military, she made a personal decision. She did not want her past achievements to become a shield that separated her from ordinary life. She believed respect mattered most when nobody knew what she had accomplished. Across town, Officer Daniel Whitaker was beginning what he believed would be a routine part of his shift. With 16 years in law enforcement, Daniel trusted his experience. He believed years on the job taught him how to recognize situations quickly. That experience had helped him many times before. But sometimes, the same instincts that help someone notice details can also create assumptions before all the facts are available. When Daniel arrived at the gas station, he saw Maya and noticed details that made him pause. He did not know her background. He did not know her service history. He only saw the situation in front of him and made a decision based on the information available at that moment. Maya noticed the officer approaching but remained calm. She had spent years in environments where staying composed under pressure was essential. She understood that patience could reveal more than confrontation ever could. The first words exchanged between them seemed ordinary. Simple questions. Simple answers. A conversation that appeared to be like countless others happening across America every day. But what neither of them realized was that the gas station cameras were quietly recording everything. Every question, every response, every moment of hesitation. The footage would later become more than a recording. It would become the one thing that could show the complete truth. Daniel believed he was evaluating a situation. Maya believed she was simply allowing a process to happen. Neither one knew that this brief encounter would soon force everyone involved to ask a much deeper question. Not who had more authority, not who had the stronger title, but whether people are treated with the same respect before anyone knows what they have achieved. The afternoon at the Oak Ridge gas station continued with a calm appearance, but beneath the surface, every second was creating a record that would later tell a much bigger story. Commander Maya Thompson stood beside her vehicle, listening carefully as Officer Daniel Whitaker approached. The conversation began like many routine interactions across the country. Daniel asked questions. Maya answered respectfully. Nothing about the exchange seemed extraordinary at first, but the difference was hidden in the details. Daniel believed he was simply doing his job based on the information in front of him. Maya understood that every interaction could change depending on how people chose to communicate. She did not raise her voice. She did not challenge his authority. She simply remained composed and allowed the process to continue. "Can I ask what brought you here today?" Daniel asked. Maya briefly explained that she was traveling through the area and had stopped for fuel before continuing her trip. Her answers were clear and direct. She did not offer additional information about her background because she believed a person should not need a special title to receive basic respect. For Maya, that belief came from years of experience. During her time as a Navy SEAL, she learned that true confidence did not require constant explanation. The strongest people in difficult situations were often the ones who remained focused and controlled. Daniel continued the conversation while reviewing the information available to him. He looked for details that could help him understand the situation. From his perspective, he was being careful. From Maya's perspective, she was watching how the interaction unfolded. She knew that moments like this often revealed more than official statements ever could. The gas station environment remained busy around them. Customers walked in and out of the store. Vehicles arrived and left. Above the entrance and near the fuel pumps, security cameras quietly captured everything. The cameras did not know anyone's name. They did not know someone's career history or personal achievements. They only recorded actions, words, and choices that would later become important. Daniel asked additional questions, trying to gather more information. Maya responded patiently, but she also asked a simple question of her own. Could you explain what specific concern you are trying to address? Her tone was not aggressive. It was calm and professional. The question made Daniel pause for a moment. He was used to asking questions, but he was not always used to being asked to explain the reason behind them. That small moment changed the feeling of the conversation. Neither person became hostile. Neither person lost control. But the balance of the interaction shifted because a simple question encouraged everyone to think more carefully. Maya had spent years learning the importance of clarity. In high-pressure environments, understanding the reason behind a decision could make the difference between confusion and cooperation. Daniel continued reviewing the situation, still unaware of the full story standing in front of him. He did not know that the woman answering his questions had served among some of the most respected members of the United States military. He did not know that the same discipline she carried from her service was helping her remain calm at that exact moment. And he did not know that the cameras above the gas station were preserving every detail of their conversation, waiting for the day when people would watch the footage and ask a different question. Not what happened during those minutes, but what those minutes revealed about everyone involved. The conversation at the Oak Ridge gas station continued, but the atmosphere had slowly changed. What began as a simple exchange of questions had become a moment where every word carried more meaning than either person expected. Officer Daniel Whitaker remained focused on gathering information, believing that careful observation was part of his responsibility. Commander Maya Thompson remained calm, understanding that patience could often reveal more than frustration ever could. Daniel looked at the situation through the lens of his years in law enforcement. He had learned to pay attention to details, to notice patterns, and to make decisions quickly. Those skills had helped him during many situations throughout his career. But experience can be complicated. The same instincts that help someone recognize important details can sometimes create conclusions before the complete picture is visible. Maya understood that better than most people. Her years as a Navy SEAL had taught her the importance of controlling emotions, especially when circumstances were uncertain. She knew that pressure often revealed character, and she believed the best response was not always the loudest one. It was the one that kept the situation clear. Daniel asked Maya about her vehicle and her reason for stopping at the gas station. She answered every question directly. She did not avoid the conversation, but she also did not volunteer information that was unrelated to the moment. She was not trying to prove anything. She was simply expecting the interaction to remain fair and professional. "I am happy to answer your questions," Maya said calmly. "But I would like to understand what specific concern we are addressing." The sentence was simple, but it carried weight. Daniel paused and considered the question. In his mind, he was trying to make sure everything was properly handled. But Maya's question encouraged a different kind of reflection. It shifted the conversation from only collecting answers to understanding the reason behind them. Around them, the gas station continued operating as normal. People stopped for fuel. Customers entered the store. The sounds of everyday life continued without anyone realizing that a meaningful moment was unfolding near the pumps. The security cameras above the building continued recording silently. They captured the expressions, the distance between the two people, and the tone of the conversation. They captured something that memory alone could not provide later. A complete view of what actually happened. Daniel asked a few more questions, and Maya continued responding respectfully. She did not mention her military background. She did not explain the responsibilities she once carried. She did not say that she had spent years training for situations where calm thinking mattered more than emotion. She believed that revealing her past would change the way people saw the interaction, and she wanted the situation to be judged based on what was happening in that moment. That choice reflected something important about Maya. She did not measure respect by recognition. She measured it by how people treated one another when there was nothing to gain. Daniel eventually stepped back to review the information he had collected. He still believed he was handling a routine situation. He still believed he understood the person standing in front of him. But the truth was that he only knew a small part of the story. He knew what he could see. He did not know what Maya had experienced. He did not know the discipline behind her calm response. And he did not know that the woman he was questioning had spent years serving in one of the most demanding military communities in the United States. The cameras continued recording, preserving a moment that would later challenge assumptions and reveal a lesson neither person expected. The afternoon at the Oak Ridge gas station slowly moved forward, but the interaction between Officer Daniel Whitaker and Commander Maya Thompson had reached a point where the smallest details became the most important. From the outside, it still looked like an ordinary conversation between a police officer and a driver. There were no dramatic moments. There were no raised voices. There was simply a question of how two people would handle a situation where one person had authority and the other person had to trust that authority would be used responsibly. Daniel returned to his patrol vehicle for a moment to review the information he had collected. He looked through the details again, trying to understand the situation from his perspective. Years of experience had taught him to remain alert. He believed that being careful was part of protecting the community. But he did not realize that the situation was also revealing something about his own approach. Maya remained beside her vehicle, watching the interaction unfold. She had spent years in environments where every decision mattered. During her time as a Navy SEAL, she learned that the strongest response was often the one controlled by discipline rather than emotion. She knew that difficult moments were not defined only by what happened. They were defined by how people chose to respond. When Daniel returned, he continued asking questions. Maya continued answering respectfully. But the conversation now carried a different feeling. Daniel was trying to understand why Maya seemed so composed. Most people became nervous when questioned. Many people tried to explain themselves quickly. Maya did not. Her calmness was not a sign that she did not care. It was a reflection of years spent learning how to remain focused when situations became uncertain. "I understand that you have a responsibility to do your job," Maya said. "I just believe every person deserves to understand why something is happening." Her words were simple, but they created a moment of reflection. Daniel had heard many explanations from people during his career. Some were defensive, some were emotional, but Maya's response was different. She was not trying to avoid the conversation. She was trying to make sure the conversation remained clear. Inside the gas station store, Marcus Hill, the owner, noticed the interaction from a distance. He did not know who Maya was. He did not know about her military service. He only noticed that she remained respectful while answering questions. Like the cameras above the building, he was simply observing what happened. The security footage continued capturing every moment. It recorded the way Maya stood calmly. It recorded Daniel reviewing information. It recorded a conversation that would later become important because of what was not said as much as what was said. Daniel eventually asked Maya about her occupation. For a brief moment, she considered how much information to share. She could have immediately mentioned her years in the Navy SEAL community. She could have explained her background and changed the entire atmosphere. But she decided against it. She believed respect should come before recognition. She believed people should be treated fairly before they discover someone's achievements. So she simply answered that she worked in a field requiring discipline and responsibility. Daniel accepted the answer, but he still did not know the full story. He did not know that the woman standing in front of him had faced challenges far beyond an ordinary conversation at a gas station. He did not know that her calm presence came from years of preparation. And he did not know that this moment would soon become a lesson about the difference between judging what someone appears to be and understanding who they truly are. As the afternoon continued at the Oak Ridge gas station, the situation appeared to be reaching a natural conclusion. Officer Daniel Whitaker had gathered the information he wanted, and Commander Maya Thompson remained patient throughout the entire interaction. To anyone passing by, it looked like an ordinary moment between an officer completing his responsibilities and a citizen cooperating with the process. But behind the quiet conversation, something important was already being recorded. The cameras above the gas pumps continued capturing every detail. They recorded the tone of every question, the patience in every response, and the choices made by both people during those minutes. Neither Daniel nor Maya knew how important those recordings would become. Daniel returned to his vehicle once again to organize his notes. He reviewed the information and thought about the interaction from his own perspective. He believed he had been careful. He believed he had been professional. After 16 years in law enforcement, he trusted his ability to recognize situations that required more attention. That confidence had been built through years of experience. But sometimes, experience creates another challenge. A person can become so familiar with certain patterns that they may forget to question the first impression created by those patterns. Maya understood this because her own career had required constant self-evaluation. During her years as a Navy SEAL, she learned that preparation was not only about knowing what to do. It was also about knowing when to pause, observe, and understand the full situation before making a decision. She carried that lesson into everyday life. She did not see the interaction as a battle between herself and an officer. She saw it as a moment where communication mattered. When Daniel approached one more time, Maya noticed that his tone had changed slightly. The questions remained professional, but there was a sense that he was still trying to understand something he could not explain. He asked about her background and what she did for work. Maya answered honestly but briefly. She told him she worked in a field that required discipline and responsibility. She did not mention her military history. She did not mention the years she spent serving alongside some of the most dedicated professionals in the country. She did not mention that she had faced situations where staying calm was not simply a preference but a necessity. She made that choice because she wanted the interaction to be about the present moment, not about a title from her past. Inside the store, Marcus Hill continued watching from a distance. Something about the exchange caught his attention. He noticed that Maya never became disrespectful. He noticed that she answered questions while still maintaining her own sense of dignity. Later, he would remember those small details. At that moment, he had no idea that the footage from his security cameras would become an important part of understanding what happened. Daniel eventually asked one final question before stepping away. Maya answered clearly, then thanked him for listening. It was a simple gesture, but it showed something important. She was not looking for conflict. She was not trying to prove that she was more important than anyone else. She simply believed that every person deserved to be heard. As Daniel walked back toward his vehicle, he still did not know the complete story of the woman he had just spoken with. He did not know that Maya Thompson had once worn the uniform of a Navy SEAL. He did not know that her calmness came from years of training and experience. Most importantly, he did not know that the next discovery would completely change how he viewed the encounter. Because soon, the question would not be about who Maya was. It would be about what the evidence showed. The next morning, the quiet conversation at the Oak Ridge gas station began to attract attention inside the police department. At first, it appeared to be nothing more than another routine interaction recorded by a patrol officer. But when the footage was reviewed more carefully, the details started to create a different picture. The security cameras from the gas station had captured the entire exchange from multiple angles. They showed the environment, the conversation, and the way both people responded throughout the encounter. The recordings did not show assumptions. They did not show opinions. They only showed what happened. Sergeant Laura Bennett from the department's Professional Standards Division was assigned to review the footage after questions were raised about the interaction. Her responsibility was not to decide who was right before examining the evidence. Her responsibility was to understand the complete situation. She began by watching the first few minutes. She saw Commander Maya Thompson arrive at the gas station, step out of her vehicle, and continue with an ordinary part of her day. She saw Officer Daniel Whitaker approach and begin the conversation. First, nothing appeared unusual, but as the review continued, Laura noticed something important. Maya remained calm during every moment of the interaction. She answered questions clearly. She did not attempt to use her background or personal achievements to influence the situation. The more Laura watched, the more she understood that the most important part of the encounter was not what Maya had accomplished. It was how she chose to respond when nobody knew what she had accomplished. Laura then reviewed Daniel's report and compared it with the available recordings. She looked for consistency between what was written and what the cameras showed. She wanted to understand the decisions made during the encounter and the information available at each point in time. This was not about criticizing an officer for asking questions. Questions were part of police work. The important issue was whether those questions continued for a clear and reasonable purpose. Meanwhile, Daniel returned to his normal duties, unaware that the encounter was receiving a closer review. He believed he had handled the situation responsibly. He believed his experience had guided him correctly. But when people watch their own actions from a different perspective, they often notice things they did not recognize in the moment. Later that afternoon, Sergeant Bennett contacted Marcus Hill, the owner of the gas station, to confirm the availability of the security footage. Marcus provided the recordings without hesitation. He explained that he had noticed the interaction because of the calm way Maya handled herself. He did not know she had served as a Navy SEAL. He did not know her professional history. He only knew what he observed. A person who remained respectful even during an uncertain conversation. As the review continued, one question became more important than all the others. Would the situation have been handled the same way if nobody ever discovered who Maya Thompson was? That question changed the entire direction of the investigation. Because the purpose of fairness was not to treat someone differently after learning their identity. The purpose was to make sure identity never determined the level of respect someone received in the first place. The cameras had preserved the moment. The records had preserved the facts. And now, the people reviewing the encounter had to decide what those facts truly meant. The review inside the Oak Ridge Police Department continued as Sergeant Laura Bennett examined every detail of the gas station encounter. What had first appeared to be a simple conversation was now being viewed from a different perspective. The purpose of the review was not to focus on a single person. It was to understand how decisions were made, what information was available at the time, and whether those decisions reflected the standards expected from someone in a position of public responsibility. Laura watched the security footage again, this time taking notes on every important moment. She noticed how Commander Maya Thompson remained consistent from the beginning until the end. Her tone stayed respectful. Her answers remained clear. She never attempted to control the situation by mentioning her military background. She never suggested that her previous service should change the way she was treated. That detail stood out to Laura. Maya had every opportunity to reveal who she was, yet she chose not to. She allowed the interaction to continue based on the same standard that should apply to everyone. Laura then shifted her attention to Officer Daniel Whitaker. She reviewed his actions carefully and considered the information he had available during the encounter. She understood that Daniel believed he was performing his responsibilities. She understood that experience often guides decisions in law enforcement. But the review process required looking beyond intentions. A decision could be made with good intentions and still require reflection afterward. During the department meeting, Captain Daniel Brooks joined Laura to discuss the findings. He had known Officer Whitaker for many years and respected his dedication to the community. But he also understood that trust was built when officers were willing to examine their own choices honestly. The question is not whether we believe we are doing the right thing, Captain Brooks explained. The question is whether our actions remain fair when they are viewed by someone who was not part of the moment. Those words stayed with everyone in the room. The security footage created a unique opportunity. It allowed people to step outside their own memories and see the encounter as an outside observer would. It showed that Maya remained composed. It showed that Daniel continued asking questions. It showed the importance of understanding not only what happened, but why it happened. Meanwhile, Maya continued her life without seeking attention from the situation. When people around her suggested that her military background could have changed the outcome immediately, she disagreed. She believed that respect should not depend on discovering someone's accomplishments. She believed the standard should exist before anyone knows a person's history. That message became central to the department's discussion. The situation was not about giving special treatment to a former Navy SEAL. It was about recognizing that every person deserves professional and respectful treatment, regardless of their occupation, background, or achievements. As the review moved forward, more members of the department watched the footage. Each person noticed different details, but they all reached the same understanding. The most important moment was not when people discovered who Maya Thompson was. The most important moment was realizing that they should never need to know someone's identity before choosing fairness. The cameras had captured an ordinary afternoon. But within those ordinary minutes was a lesson about judgment, responsibility, and the true meaning of professional service. The days following the review brought a new perspective to everyone involved in the Oak Ridge gas station encounter. What had once been viewed as a brief roadside interaction was now being examined as a lesson about judgment, responsibility, and the importance of treating every person with the same level of respect. Inside the police department, Captain Daniel Brooks gathered the leadership team to discuss the next steps. The goal was not to create punishment for the sake of punishment. The goal was to understand what could be learned and how the department could continue building trust with the community it served. Officer Daniel Whitaker attended the meeting and listened carefully as the findings were explained. He had spent years believing that experience was one of his greatest strengths. It allowed him to recognize patterns, make decisions quickly, and respond to situations with confidence. But the review showed him another side of experience. Sometimes experience could help a person understand a situation. Other times, it could cause someone to rely too heavily on what they thought they already knew. Daniel watched the security footage again. This time, he did not watch it as the officer involved in the encounter. He watched it as someone trying to understand the perspective of the person standing on the other side. He saw Commander Maya Thompson's patience. He saw the way she answered every question. He saw that she never used her background as a Navy SEAL to change the direction of the conversation. That realization affected him deeply. Maya had possessed information that could have immediately changed how people viewed her, but she chose not to use it. She wanted the interaction to be judged by what happened, not by who she was. Captain Brooks explained that this was the foundation of professional service. Authority was not about receiving automatic respect. Authority was about earning trust through consistent actions. A person's position should never determine whether they deserve fairness. The same principle should apply to everyone. Meanwhile, Maya continued focusing on her own responsibilities. She did not seek public attention. She did not ask for special recognition. When asked about the incident, she repeated the same message she had carried from the beginning. Her military service taught her the importance of discipline, but it also taught her the importance of humility. She believed the strongest response was often the one that helped people learn instead of simply proving a point. Her words influenced the way the department approached the situation. The discussion moved beyond one officer and one encounter. It became about the culture of decision-making. Became about whether people in positions of authority were willing to examine their own actions and improve. The security footage from the gas station became part of future training sessions. New officers studied the interaction carefully. They learned that professionalism was not only measured during major events. It was measured during everyday moments when nobody knew who was watching. As the department prepared its final recommendations, one message became clear. The most important discovery was not that Maya Thompson had once served as a Navy SEAL. The most important discovery was that she should never have needed that title to receive respect. The lesson was already visible in the footage. True strength is not shown by how much power someone can display. It is shown by how responsibly they treat others when no one knows their story. 1 year after the encounter at the Oak Ridge gas station, the story was no longer remembered as a simple conversation between a police officer and a former Navy SEAL. It became a reminder of how ordinary moments can reveal the values people carry when nobody knows their full story. Inside the police department training center, new officers gathered to watch the footage that had once been reviewed during the investigation. The room was quiet as the recording began. On the screen was the same gas station, the same vehicle, the same conversation between Officer Daniel Whitaker and Commander Maya Thompson. But this time, the purpose was different. The footage was not being shown to determine what happened. That question had already been answered. It was being shown to help future officers understand why every interaction matters. Captain Daniel Brooks stood in front of the room and explained that professional responsibility was not only about following procedures. It was about understanding the people behind every situation. He told the officers that a badge gave them authority, but it also created an obligation to use that authority with fairness and care. The lesson from Maya's encounter was not that she deserved different treatment because she had served as a Navy SEAL. The lesson was that she deserved the same respect that every person should receive. Daniel Whitaker continued serving in the department after completing additional professional development. The experience changed the way he approached his role. He still valued his years of experience, but he learned to balance experience with reflection. He became more aware of the importance of asking himself a simple question before making decisions. Am I responding to the facts in front of me, or am I responding to an assumption? That question became one of the most valuable lessons he carried forward. Maya Thompson returned to her life away from the attention surrounding the incident. She continued supporting programs focused on leadership and discipline. When people asked her what she wanted others to remember from the experience, her answer remained consistent. She did not want people to focus on her military title. She wanted people to focus on the principle behind the moment. Respect should not appear only after someone discovers another person's achievements. Respect should exist before that discovery ever happens. Marcus Hill, the owner of the gas station, kept the security footage as a reminder of the unexpected lesson that came from an ordinary day. He often told people that the most important part of the recording was not what it revealed about Maya. It was what it revealed about human behavior. Everyone carries a story that others may never see. Everyone has experiences that shape the way they respond to difficult moments. The cameras had captured a conversation at a gas station, but they also captured something deeper. They captured patience. They captured professionalism. They captured the difference between judging a person by appearance and understanding a person through actions. In the end, Maya never needed to prove who she was. Her character was visible long before anyone learned about her service. Daniel never expected that a routine interaction would challenge the way he viewed responsibility. But that moment gave him a lesson that years of experience alone could not provide. He thought he was evaluating a situation at a gas station. Instead, the situation revealed something about him. Because true authority is not measured by the power someone holds. It is measured by the respect they choose to give when they have the power to do otherwise.